Yeah.
This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Well, Gary, we're going to do a welcome to Bard, and we're going to do a bite-sized Bard today. What do you think?
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Exactly. We're going to start off with, this week has been something. You've had the Trump trial. You've had the Trump U.S. Supreme Court argument. And interestingly, for everybody who kept saying, this was dead on arrival, Supreme Court's never going to take it. Then when they took it, they're never going to go with it. Let me tell you something. What I'm going to make a bold prediction here. Based on the oral arguments, let's hear a little bit of it, then I'll tell you what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Justice Alito, and Zoom has screwed with the settings. So there we go. Found it.
Just briefly review the layers of protection that you think exists. And I'm going to start with what the D.C. Circuit said. So the first layer of protection is that attorneys general and other Justice Department attorneys can be trusted to act in a professional and ethical manner, right?
Yes.
How robust is that protection? I mean, most of the vast majority of attorneys general and Justice Department attorneys, and we both served in the Justice Department for a long time, are honorable people, and they take their professional ethical responsibilities seriously. But there have been exceptions, right? Both among attorneys general and among federal prosecutors.
There have been rare exceptions, Justice Alito. But
so as for attorneys general, there have been two who were convicted of criminal offenses while in office. There were others. A. Mitchell Palmer's one that comes to mind, who is widely regarded as having abused the power of his office. Would you agree with that?
I would, but they are two officials in a long line of attorneys generals who did not, and in departments of justice that are staffed by multiple people who do adhere to their office.
So moving on to the second level of protection that the D.C. Circuit cited, federal grand juries will shield former presidents from unwarranted indictments. How much protection is that?
Well, it affords two levels of protection. One is the probable cause finding requires evidence. I think some of the fears about groundless prosecutions aren't supported by evidence, and they're not going to get out of the starting gate.
I mean, there's the old saw about indicting a ham sandwich.
Yes, but I think Justice
you had a lot of experience in the Justice Department. You come across a lot of cases where the U.S. attorney or another federal prosecutor really wanted to indict a case and the grand jury refused to do so.
As I get older, it's incredible to me that the people who are characterized as conservative or right-wing end up, at least on criminal justice matters, all of a sudden becoming what I've been saying for 40 years. I mean, the Alito was very, I think, kindly asking Dreeben, because it wouldn't surprise me if they have a long history together. How many times have you ever had a federal prosecutor who wanted to indict somebody and it turned out that the grand jury didn't go along with it? I can tell you, I know of one case right now, literally, that is still pending in the Central District, where the grand jury twice refused to indict, and the third time the prosecutor got an indictment. So the Alito is speaking truth, and Dreeben, more power to you, love you. But the fact is that if a prosecutor wants an indictment, he's going to get an indictment. A grand jury is going to indict, and if they don't, he'll find another grand jury that will. And so This idea of the protection of the grand jury, that may have been the case when the founders conceived of grand juries and the probable cause standard. I love when people talk about the probable cause standard. Probable cause standard means, as you've heard me say a million times, Gary, is my client breathing?
Yeah, exactly. It's just the lowest possible bar.
Yeah, it's the lowest possible bar, and even if a grand jury does not indict, if a prosecutor wants to, they'll just go to the next grand jury and they'll get an indictment. So please, enough with this idea that there are buffers or anything else. The people say, but what about he's fomenting an insurrection? I got that. I understand that. I get that that's your end game. The fact is, you don't destroy due process. You don't destroy the constitutional framework because you want to get somebody.
Yeah, we saw a court in New York this week basically say the same thing about a disgraced Hollywood figure.
Yeah, take a look at Weinstein. I mean, how many times did you and I talk about the fact that they let in, under what I affectionately call the character assassination phase of the case, not only evidence that he had not been convicted of,
but
that
testimony.
he had not been charged.
Yeah, but also testimony from accusers who had not brought charges, who had not had trials, and just character assassination is the nicest possible way to say it. I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of the gentleman. I think he's probably done some things that are horrible in his life, but that's not the way the justice system works.
And by the way, one of the other things that was mentioned in that opinion when Weinstein's conviction was reversed was that the fact that the judge had indicated that he was going to allow cross-examination if Weinstein got on the stand of that uncharged conduct basically undercut his Fifth Amendment right and his Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. It was a constitutional violation. So everybody who says they believe in the Constitution understand that admittedly divided court, but the court did do the right thing.
Yeah, I took us down a different New York road. We were going to talk about a New York district attorney who got pulled over and got a little snippy with the cops, but I think we're going to have to save that one for next week because I know you have an appointment and a phone call in about 90 seconds here, so I need to get you out of here. Mark, thank you so much for your time, and we will be back with a more full-length Beyond a Reasonable Doubt next week.
Thanks, Gary. Always good to see you, and aloha.
You as well. Aloha.